Guadalupe, and taken off of the first vows and renewal of vows. And a few considerations here. When the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to Juan Diego 500 years ago, she also appeared to Juan Bernardino, his uncle. And Juan Diego brought the tilma to the bishop of the diocese, Bishop of Moraga, and gave the miracle proving that he should build a temple, a church in the place of Tepeyac Hill. But at the same time this was occurring, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to the uncle Juan Bernardino, who was dying from an arrow wound, since the Catholics were despised, and there was a great persecution of the church going on, and there was a danger of the whole of Catholicism being wiped out in Mexico. And because Juan Bernardino was a follower of Christ and a Catholic, he had been hit with an arrow and was dying from the arrow wound. And that morning of December the 12th, and he asked Juan Diego to run to visit the bishop and to ask for a priest. And Juan Diego, of course, was planned to meet Our Lady that morning. He was going to meet Our Lady that morning, and said he had no plans to do anything different. But because his uncle had been shot by an arrow, and his uncle was dying, and his uncle was in need of the priest, he figured that the Blessed Virgin Mary would understand. She would understand that he had to go get a priest first. And once he got the priest, then he would come back and make his appointment with Our Lady. So when he passed by Tepeyac Hill, he was afraid the lady might see him, and so he went around in such a way that she would not see him, because he had to pass by that hill in order to get to Mexico City to get to the priest. In the state of worry, he went around the hill, and he tried to avoid Our Lady in order to go to get the priest to anoint his uncle. When the Blessed Virgin saw this, she came down the hill and on an angle to intercept him, and he could see that she was going to intercept him, and so he went to meet his mother, and he said, "I'm sorry that I didn't come up to meet you as was scheduled, but my uncle is dying. He's on the point of death. He is gravely wounded, and that I must go and get a priest to anoint him. And that is why I walked around the hill and not to the hill." Then Our Lady said to Juan Diego, "Why didn't you come to me, my little Diego? Why didn't you come to me? Am I not your mother? Do I have you in the fold of my mantle? You have nothing to worry if you come to me. You should have given, don't worry about your uncle anymore, because this moment I am talking to him. Now as I'm talking to you, just as I'm speaking to you, I am also now speaking to him, and he is cured of his sickness, and he doesn't need the priest." And as soon as Juan Diego heard these words, he was immediately filled with joy, because the Blessed Virgin could only tell him the truth. He didn't go back to check to make sure that Juan Bernardino was really healthy. He didn't go and get the priest to anoint his uncle just to be on the safe side. He had no backup plan. No backup plan whatsoever. The mother told him, Juan Bernardino, who just walked away from only an hour ago, he was near death with the wound of an arrow inside of him, and yet now I'm telling you, he's not sick anymore. The wound of the arrow is gone. He is completely cured. And your mother, am talking to him, and he is perfectly healthy and fine, and you don't need to have a priest come and anoint him. Unlike the Holy Father, and unlike many souls in the church down the last 2,000 years, and especially in our time, Juan Diego believed Our Lady. He didn't question. She says, "My uncle is fine," he's fine. She says he doesn't need to be anointed, he doesn't need to be anointed. And then he asked, "Well, then what should I do?" "You go up to the top of the mountain, because I don't feel like walking up the mountain. I walked all the way down the mountain. I will wait here," said the Blessed Mother. "Well, you go up the mountain, up to the top of the hill where you first met me. There you will find flowers." It was December. It was a mountain. There should be no flowers at any time of the year, but especially not in December on the top of a mountain. And Juan Diego did not say, well, it is not the season of flowers. It's not supposed to be flowers. He didn't say that. When the Blessed Virgin said to him, go back to the place where I was, where you met me before, where you should have met me this morning, the place you tried to avoid, go to that place. There you will find flowers. I'm not bringing the flowers down to you. I told you to go to that place. Go to that place, and there you will find flowers. Gather as many as you can. Put them inside of your mantle. Bring them back to me. And so he went up to the place with great joy because his uncle was alive and healthy. He had no doubts or worries. In fact, he didn't even think about him anymore. He didn't pray for his health anymore. He didn't worry about him anymore. He just went up there to the top of the mountain. And he had faith. He took the flowers and he put them inside of his mantle. And he brought them down to Our Lady. And he opened up his mantle, and she then rearranged them. He said, now put them in that arrangement and bring them to the bishop. So Juan Diego went and brought them to the bishop, Zumarraga. And there was another bishop there as well, and also some priests and a few other people. And they were present when Juan Diego finally let down his tilma, and the roses fell upon the ground, Castilian roses from Spain. The roses that don't exist anywhere in the Americas. Roses well known to Bishop Zumarraga, who had asked a special blessing of Our Lady. Remember when Juan Diego said, what miracle do you want? I'll go and tell Mary, and she'll perform the miracle. Zumarraga said, no, I'm not going to ask her a specific miracle. She knows what miracle to do. Let her decide. She will know. And secretly, he simply asked for some Castilian roses. That's all he asked for. A few roses. He loved Castilian roses, the beautiful roses of Spain. He wanted to see them again, and that's what he asked for. And so when Juan Diego came back and he lopped down the roses, these flowers he had never seen in Mexico, immediately Bishop Zumarraga looked down and saw, I recognize those roses. Somehow the mother brought roses from Spain and brought them to the Americas. And these are most beautiful roses, and he thought that was the miracle. That's what he thought. He looked up, and then the miracle happened. In the 1950s, they took computers and they took powerful binoculars or powerful microscopes and looked into the image of the eye of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And we can see in her eye that the eye of the Blessed Virgin is looking directly at one person, Bishop Zumarraga. And the eye is looking directly at Zumarraga, and you can see that the eye of Our Lady is looking directly to the eyes of Bishop Zumarraga, which means when the bishop looked up and saw the tilma, he saw an empty tilma that's just plain, exactly as it was made by Maria, the wife, Maria Lucia, the wife of Juan Diego. But when he looked at it, then he saw her eyes, and she saw him, and at that moment, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared. We can all go and look at that image right now. But Our Lady, the Blessed Virgin Mary, appeared at the moment when the bishop looked up. And when she looked into the eyes of the bishop, and he looked into her eyes, there came the miraculous image, which we call the image of Our Lady Guadalupe. He saw the image. And everyone else was in the room. They were looking down at the flowers. They were amazed at the beautiful flowers that had fallen upon the floor. Juan Diego was looking at the bishop. All the others were looking at the flowers. And then Archbishop Zumarraga was looking in the eyes of Our Lady. He was the first one to see the miraculous image. Once he saw Our Lady, he immediately knelt down in front of Juan Diego. And all those present in the room, about 6 people present in the room, they saw the bishop kneel down. And they said, why is the bishop kneeling? So they turned and looked at the bishop. And they saw him gazing at Juan Diego. They then turned and looked at the image and saw also the image. And then they all knelt down also. And the very last one to see the image was Juan Diego. Juan Diego was looking at everyone. Why are they all kneeling down? Why are they kneeling in front of me? Why are they kneeling? And he looked down at his own tilma and saw the image of the mother whom he had seen on Tepeyac Hill. And then he also knelt down. The miracle of the Blessed Virgin Mary. How does she bring about the transformation and conversion of Mexico 500 years ago? In a similar way, she will bring about the transformation and conversion of the whole world 500 years later. When that great miracle happened, it was the beginning of the fifth age of the church, the age of decline, the age in which all Catholics, almost all Catholics, will leave and apostatize from the faith. And they began that journey with Protestantism 500 years ago. They're at the end of that journey now. And Our Lady said in Fatima, to complete the work of Our Lady of Guadalupe, she said, the Pope must consecrate Russia. A bishop will consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And when that bishop sees me, when that bishop lays his eyes upon Mary, and Mary lays her eyes upon the bishop, then shall come a great miracle. This miracle shall happen. There shall be a great miracle as happened 500 years ago. It's going to happen again. And it is happening before our very eyes. The Blessed Virgin Mary will bring about miracles and bring about a miraculous image and bring about a conversion. First of those people in the room who had no confidence in Juan Diego, who had no confidence in this foolish Indian who didn't know anything about Christ, barely baptized, very ignorant, couldn't read. And yet this man would be the one who would be the instrument of bringing Our Lady into that bishop's house. And from that bishop's house to the whole world. And so it'll happen again in our times. We're waiting for that moment when the Blessed Virgin Mary shall lay eyes upon the Bishop of Rome in the same way that she laid eyes upon Bishop Zumarraga. The eyes of the Blessed Virgin, the Tilma of Juan Diego, are exactly as a living human eye. They are not as a painted eye. For instance, all of the reflections in the eye are seen in cinemascope. They are all extended exactly as they are in our eye. The reflections are exactly as in a human eye, a living eye. They are not a painted eye, but they are a living eye. One cannot paint these reflections in the way that they are found in the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe. There is an angle and distortion exactly as it is if you look into a living human eye. And so, that way they can tell the exact position which Juan Diego was. His face can be seen from the vision of the eyes of the Blessed Virgin looking up, seeing the top of the eyes, the exact location of the men inside the room. Bishop Zumarraga, Bishop Fonliel, the two bishops that were in the room. None could see Our Lady at the moment that it appeared. They were all looking at the roses. Only one could see her, and that was Bishop Zumarraga. And it fits that we come 500 years later, the Blessed Virgin Mary, the same Mother of God, will say, I want the Holy Father to consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. I want the Holy Father to do so in union with all the bishops throughout the world. And when he sees my way, and when his eyes behold me, there shall come a great miracle, the conversion of Russia and the conversion of the whole world. A few days ago, on December the 8th, the Feast of the Immaculate Conception, Pope Francis gave a golden rose to Our Lady, and the oldest icon of Our Lady in the church of the Sancta Maria Maggiore, St. Mary Majors, the principal church of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the whole Roman Catholic Church. And the oldest icon of Our Lady is the Mother of God. Previous to the year 200 AD, it was painted. And this image, the last time a pope gave a golden rose to this image was over 400 years ago. And Pope Francis, the wicked pope, the one who devoted himself, who said only a few years ago, we don't speak of Fatima. That's what he said when he spoke to Putin. We don't speak of Fatima here. And his cardinal said, yes, we despise Fatima. And yet that pope that said we don't speak of Fatima, he was the one that consecrated Russia, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, only a year and a half ago. And this consecration shall take its effect. And Our Lady, we pray for the moment when Our Lady shall look into the eyes of the Holy Father. Just as she looked into the eyes of Bishop Zumarraga. Zumarraga doubted. Zumarraga did not have faith, though he was not a wicked bishop like the present Bishop of Rome. But when Zumarraga saw Our Lady, he realizes the roses are beautiful. That's what I asked for. Just to see a few roses. The roses are forgotten. It was a small request. He wisely said, I'm asking for roses, but the miracle I leave up to Mary. And the Blessed Virgin Mary decided that that miracle should be a beautiful image implanted on a tilma that lasts a maximum of 40 years before it rots and falls away. And that tilma has been subjected to bombs, subjected to fire and heat, subjected to wax, subjected to abuse by hundreds of thousands of human hands over the last 400 years, almost 500 years now, 500 years, and it is completely intact, without a smallest bit of dust upon it. It is preserved because Our Lady decided what should be. And the Blessed Virgin Mary's miracle was not only for Mexico, it was not only for the New World, it was for all of us in this fifth age of the Church. That there will be a reminder of as this fifth age began with a great miracle in Mexico 500 years ago, it shall end with another great miracle. A miracle decided by Mary, not decided by anyone else. It was the Blessed Virgin Mary that said, I have decided how this crisis shall come to Vatican II, shall come to an end. It shall come when a Holy Father, when the Pope, the Bishop of Rome, consecrates Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary in union with all the bishops. And so he has done. She did not say it will be a holy Pope. She just simply said it must be a Pope. She didn't say there will be holy bishops. They must simply be bishops. And so they consecrated Russia, and now they wait for the moment of the eyes of Mary to engage the eyes of Our Lady, or of the Bishop of Rome. And when those two eyes engage, shall come a great miracle of the conversion of Russia. And we pray that this miracle is about to take place. We know that it will come in time. God always gives a time of a test. I told you what I would do. If you do this, I will do that. And there's a gap between this and that. To see if we have any faith. How can it be that a wicked Bishop of Rome will be the one to consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary? How can that be? Keep the eyes on heaven. When sisters take a veil, we say the taking of the veil signifies two things. The contempt of the world. Because St. Paul tells us the glory of a woman is in her hair. That's the great beauty and glory of a woman. And therefore women should cover their heads when they come into the church. Their glory and their beauty is in their hair. And so they will cut their hair. And they will cover their hair with a black veil, showing a contempt of what the world calls the glory of woman. The contempt of the world. And also the veil goes over the side of the eyes and the side of the eyes, so that her eyes are focused only forward, only on Christ, only on her spouse, and she sees nothing else. No distractions of peripheral visions. One of our problems that we have in our lives, we're all distracted. We look forward, but we see things on one side and on the other. And these things often turn us off the path to God. And God tells the sister, you wear a veil that signifies the contempt of the world. But also it signifies your eyes are focused only on Christ. When Bishop Zumarraga saw only Mary, and she saw only him, the whole world was benefited. The whole world is now able to see a beautiful image of Our Lady, and so many miracles came from this image because two sets of eyes engaged and saw one another, and that is eyes of the Holy Mother of God and the eyes of a Spanish bishop. Now 500 years later, we find a Spanish-speaking bishop, a bishop from South America. He also finds himself the Bishop of Rome, first bishop of the New World to be a bishop in Rome. And perhaps it's fitting that this bishop who speaks Spanish and this bishop of the New World beholds the Blessed Virgin Mary and consecrates Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, offers a little golden rose, though he continues to be quite wicked in all his other ways. And yet, heaven can make a miracle happen. We know that miracles still happen. Remember that Saul of Tarsus, when he became St. Paul, it wasn't on the day that he was going to confession. It wasn't on the day that he was going to do good works of charity, even natural good works. It was on the day when he was going with the fullness of his wicked heart to stamp out Christianity. When he said, once and for all, I shall arrest all these followers of Christ. I shall wipe out the Catholic Church myself. And with his evil heart, he went on his way to Tarsus, and on his way to Damascus, and on his way, he was made blind. On his way, his eyes were transformed from eyes filled with hate and eyes filled with the destruction of the church to eyes that when they would be opened by Ananias a few days later, will be eyes that would see only Christ. Eyes of the greatest of all the apostles. But he did not begin well as St. Peter did. He did not begin well as St. John did. He began wickedly, and yet he would write 14 epistles, and he would be the greatest of the apostles. So therefore it is not without precedent that God can choose those that are wicked, those that are committed to his destruction and the destruction of his kingdom, to be the instruments of the salvation of souls and the instrument of the salvation of the Gentiles. So we pray soon that there will be this victory of the Blessed Virgin Mary manifested by the conversion of Russia, by the transformation of the world, because a bishop, a wicked bishop of Rome, has set his eyes by a golden rose being given to Our Lady upon the Blessed Virgin Mary. And when she sets her eyes upon his, the whole world shall be transformed. The whole world shall be converted. It all depends on her schedule. Just like it was said 6,000 years ago. I will have an enmity between thee and the woman. There'll be a long, long war. There'll be a war between her seed and thy seed. And you will have to wait and wait and wait. But who makes the schedule? She does. Because thou shalt lie and wait until she decides, now is the time to crush the head of the serpent. Thou shalt lie and wait for her heel. Shall we lie and wait now, in 2023, for the heel of the Blessed Virgin Mary, at the moment of her own choosing, to crush the head of the serpent once again. And the moment of her own choosing, to engage the eyes of the Holy Father, and bring about the conversion of Russia and the transformation of the world. All these things will happen because we put our eyes only forward and on her. And because God bless you all, and the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost.